Billy the Kid was once trapped inside a burning house, surrounded by armed men who were waiting to shoot anyone who tried to escape. And somehow, he made it out alive. In 1878, the town of Lincoln, New Mexico, was caught in a violent struggle for control of the local economy. For years, a powerful business faction connected to merchants Lawrence Murphy and James Dolan had dominated trade, cattle contracts, and local politics. Then a young English rancher named John Tunstall opened a competing store with attorney Alexander McSween. The rivalry quickly became something closer to a private war. In February, Tunstall was shot and killed by members of a sheriff's posse allied with his business rivals. Several of his former employees formed a group called the Regulators and set out to bring his killers to justice. Among them was a teenage gunman who would soon become famous as Billy the Kid. Over the following months, both sides carried out arrests, ambushes, and revenge killings. By July, the fighting had reached the town of Lincoln itself. Billy and several other Regulators took positions in buildings belonging to McSween's faction. Their enemies occupied buildings across the street. For 5 days, gunfire erupted along Lincoln's narrow main road. The situation became even more dangerous when soldiers from nearby Fort Stanton entered the town. Their commander claimed the army was there to protect civilians and government property, but the soldiers' presence placed enormous pressure on McSween's defenders. By the final day, many of the Regulators had withdrawn or slipped away. Billy remained inside Alexander McSween's large adobe house with McSween and several other men. Their enemies surrounded the building. Then, around noon, they set fire to the back of the house. But the thick adobe walls did not burn quickly. For nearly 7 hours, the fire crept slowly from room to room. As flames consumed each section of the house, Billy and the others were forced deeper inside, retreating through the kitchen and into the remaining rooms. Their enemies waited outside. By nightfall, the defenders had run out of places to hide. They faced a brutal choice: burn alive, or run directly toward the gunmen surrounding the house. Under cover of darkness, Billy and several others made their break. They burst from the burning building and scattered, firing as they ran through the surrounding gunmen. Billy escaped. Alexander McSween did not. McSween emerged without a weapon and reportedly shouted that he surrendered. Moments later, gunfire erupted. McSween and several other men were killed near the house, while Billy disappeared into the darkness. By morning, the McSween home had burned to the ground. The Battle of Lincoln effectively destroyed the Regulators as an organized force. Their employer was dead, their faction was collapsing, and many of the surviving men scattered. But Billy the Kid had survived a 5-day siege, endured 7 hours inside a slowly burning house, and escaped through a ring of armed enemies. It would not be his last impossible escape. And the teenage gunman who entered Lincoln as one member of the Regulators left it well on his way to becoming one of the most famous outlaws in American history.